Hi everyone, Scott here from eSkilled. Welcome to part 2 of funded contracts for New South Wales. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at how to do an enrolment into a funded contract for New South Wales, and how to produce a training plan for your new apprenticeship or trainee. So basically what I'm going to be doing now is taking you through the steps that you can take to do that in your student management system. So I'm going to switch from dashboard here, and I'm going to click on students. And now that we're on the students tab here, we're on our Jimmy Morrison student here, and we're going to go to enrollments because we want to create an enrollment. Rather than create a new enrollment, I've already got an enrollment here that I've prepared for you. Obviously, if you're creating a new enrollment, you're just going to click new. In this situation, just for moving through this tutorial a little bit quicker, we're going to work with a pre-populated enrollment, but the process is pretty much the same. So edit is going to open up our enrollment wizard just like it would open up a new enrollment. The only difference is we've got some information already pre-populated here. So obviously you're going to go through like you normally would with enrollments, select your program instance, your intake, set up your dates. You're going to select whether there's an employer for that student. If you want to, if the employer is going to be paying the student's tuition fee, then you would tick invoice to employer there. And you would also set any partner RTO or host employer or vocational placement provider on that first page as well. That's really important when it comes to the student's training plan, and just keeping a track of who's assisting with the training of that learner as well. So next we're going to go continue, and now we're on the important page in terms of your contractual obligations for reporting. So basically on the Vetmus contract page, we've got all your training activity data that's got to be reported with that funded student. When we select our funding source ID here, it will also set the relevant national funding source that we've set when we've set up that funding source ID, which we went through in part 1 of this training session. The contract here area is pre-populated from the program instance, so it's just the contract that you set up on your program instance, which is your funding contract. When we set the status for this contract to active, it will also automatically set the contract status date for us. The commitment ID is obviously the commitment ID that you get through the New South Wales Smart and Skilled system. Same with the training contract ID for your apprenticeship. So in this scenario, this program is an apprenticeship program, which is why we're seeing all the apprentice and traineeship information. It's also the reason why we can see a training plan tab on our enrollment wizard. If this was not an apprenticeship, traineeship or school-based apprenticeship program, we wouldn't see the training plan tab up the top there. So the next thing that we need to do is we'd set the whether this is a commencing enrolment or a continuing enrolment. Obviously this is the first time enrolment, so we're selecting that. Any associated course ID, that's only necessary if this was the superseded program and we're wanting to link this to the associated new course ID that we'll be delivering. The culture here is obviously just your standard Vetmus fields. And whether the student has a disability. You'll notice if we select yes, we also have to set what sort of disability, and employment status is full-time. Now just a couple of things with this education fields. If we set no here, you'll notice school type ID has disappeared. If we select yes, we do need to complete the vet and schools information and the school type ID, so we're going to set that to 21, and which is school, government school. And okay, so we've finished all of our Vetmus and contractual information there, so let's go next. So the training plan tab directly relates to the training plan that's going to be sent to, or your training plan contract that's going to be sent to your apprentice or trainee. So this directly relates, these fields directly relate to your New South Wales Smart and Skilled training plan that you're required to produce for each learner. So basically you just go through and complete those sections as they also appear on your training plan, and shortly we'll be going through how you can generate that training plan as well. The next tab is units. So basically the units tab is pre-populated from all of the settings that you set up on your program instance. Now if any of these columns is missing information, it means you haven't set up your program instance correctly. You might be missing some information at your program instance level. The idea is when you set up your program instances, you've got it all pre-populated to make that enrollment process much quicker when enrolling students. The only thing that you should need to do on this tab is to set the responsibility for training, which is also going to be reflected on the student's training plan. So if you're not doing the training plan when you're setting up the enrollment, you don't need to set these up at that time. You can do them at any time. But yeah, when you're ready to do the training plan, you would come in here and edit who's responsible for training the learner, whether it's the partner RTO, your RTO, or the employer, or a mixture of both depending on the units. And so that's all pretty straightforward. Obviously we can edit anything in any one of these lines just by clicking on edit, and we can update a particular student's group if we wanted to. We could change scheduled hours, delivery modes, etc. We could, if we want to update the version of their learning management system course at some point, we can do that. So that's just your standard functionality in units. And then if we go continue on the payments page, this is where we need to select the tuition fee. So in this case, let's select Smart and Skilled. So actually I'll unselect that, and let's select tuition fee first qualification. Now this is a dummy course and it's got a lot of tuition fees. You wouldn't typically have that many. But in this scenario, actually what we're going to say is this is actually a concession student, so we're going to select concession here, and the system will automatically apply that concession to this enrollment. So you can see now that the concession discount is $1,340, $1,340, and the student fee is now only $240 now that we've applied that concession. And the moving down, so the last thing that we need to do or to check here is whether there's any loadings for the student. So you can see here we've got our funded contract subsidy and loadings, and we may need to, if they're applicable, add some loadings in here. So we might add a disability loading in here, and the student might be in a regional area as well, so we'd select that loading, and that's going to update our add our loadings into our total expected subsidy up here. So the thing to note now, this should match what's coming out of your New South Wales Smart and Skilled system when you're entering your student into that system. If for any reason you the figures aren't matching for whatever reason, you can override anything here to ensure that you're claiming the exact amounts that are also reflected in the Smart and Skilled system. So that this is the point that you would check that against the Smart and Skilled system, and make any adjustments that you need to, should it not be calculating correctly. If it isn't calculating correctly, it means that you've probably got something set up incorrectly at the program, but you could fix this here for the student now and have a look at that later. So now if we're all happy with everything there, we would submit that, bearing in mind that the student's application status at this point is just application received. You'll notice that there's no finance or financial tab on the student's enrollment yet. That wouldn't happen until I set that student's enrollment application to approved. So once that student's gone through the necessary checks to check the eligibility for funding and I set it for approved here, that will then create their payment plan and set up there and process any payments where payments are applicable and set up their tuition fees, etc. So step 2 after setting up the enrollment is obviously to, once you've done all your checks for funding eligibility, you would then set that student to application approved. If a student is coming in through an external enrollment, they will automatically come, which is your online external enrollment form, they will automatically come in as application received. You would do what I've done. You'd edit their application, edit their enrollment, and go through, make sure the fields are filled out correctly and that you've got all the relevant information that you need, and again set them to approved once that you've confirmed their eligibility for their funding. And obviously once they're finally ready to start their course, you would set them as enrolled. So that's the workflow for setting up a student into a funded contract. Once you've done that and you're ready to provide them with their training plan, you can just select from the actions. You will notice that you've now got training plans in the system. You can select training plan, and the system is going to generate into the New South Wales training plan template a training plan for your learner. So basically all that information is beautifully pre-populated, so you don't need to complete it with all the students' units, elective types, start and end dates, etc. And this, you'll see here the responsibility for training area that we just went through and ticked all of that information in the unit. So this now should help you understand why we're setting all that information up in the enrollment wizard, because that will pre-populate onto the student's training plan here. It's just loading, so all the units are there. All the different sections that we filled out through the enrollment wizard here are now filled out beautifully, ready for ready for the student and trainer and the employer to sign off on. So that really takes the hard work out of generating a training plan. And really that concludes the session on funded contract enrolments for New South Wales. I hope you've enjoyed doing the session with me, and feel free to send any questions or queries that you might have after this training session through to our support team. They'll be too happy to help you. Good luck with your funded contract enrolments, and I look forward to talking to you in the next session. Thank you.